Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we break ground on the band Asia. This is a special request. We're going to take a look at Only Time Will Tell, and it's going to be a performance that features Greg Lake instead of John Wetton, who at this point had left the band. They got together in 81. That first album came out in 82. So John Wetton did eventually come back to the band, but during this time, Greg Lake was in, and this was the only time that he was in the band, was in 1983, for this tour, essentially, that he got a phone call for at the last second saying, "Save us!" Even the record label was saying, we've put a lot of money into this tour, and we don't want it to go down the tubes. And so he said, all right. And Greg learned the entire set list, including all the little inflections and everything. And it's a progressive rock band, even though it's, kind of pop oriented. So that's a big job. Did it in 2 weeks, because that's all he had before the tour began. He says he wouldn't like to do it again, and he had to use a teleprompter, but it did work out. So good on them. So I expect this will be pretty good. This comes from Japan. Actually takes place in Budokan in 1983.
Greg Lake is on bass as well as vocals, right?
Yeah, I would expect that he is. Much as he did for most of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And yeah, apparently Steve Howe said later on he didn't really like that Greg Lake was still kind of rooted in the 70s. And so there were some differences there, and that's why Greg Lake didn't stick around after this tour, I guess. He says, I simply did not want to go in that corporate rock direction. I could see it would be a fast way to finish me off in creative terms. After the Japan concerts, I said, if this band's going to have me in it, it would at least need to have some authentic musical foundation, and that's where we parted company. Adrian, any thoughts before we dive into this?
Well, I'm just wondering what this sounds like with Greg Lake singing instead of John Wetton.
To me, they are very similar. I mean, they're not identical, but they both have really nice voices that are suited to progressive rock. So, let's go ahead and check this out.
All righty.
You're leaving now, it's in your eyes, there's no disguising it, it really comes as no surprise to find that you've planned it all along. I see it now, becomes so clear. Sincerity, neon starry-eyed. You'd think that I would have known by now. Now, sure as the sun will cross the sky, this lie is over. Lost like the tears that now. It's in your eyes. There's no disguising it. It really comes as no surprise to find that you planned it all along. You're on your own inside your room. You're claiming victory. You were just using me. There is no one you can use now. Now, sure as the sun will cross the sky, this lie is over. Lost like the tears that used to tide me over. Only time will tell. 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 Only time will tell.
Oh, God. Greg Lake pulled it off well. He sounds like John Wetton.
That's what I'm saying. They sound so similar.
They do.
And I loved his bass tone, too. I actually think I liked it better than John Wetton's bass tone in the same band. You know, not over career-wise, but just in this setting. It sounded really good. Yeah, so I mean, there, what we have are 2 members of Yes and 2 members of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Not at the same time, but they also had 2 members of King Crimson.
Yeah, that's true.
John Wetton were both
Yeah.
in King Crimson.
It's a funny thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They all knew each other pretty well. So I think it would have been a great idea for them to follow Greg Lake's direction. The ending that they chose for this, that ending sounded like something right off of Seconds Out, or one of the Genesis pieces from the mid '70s.
Yeah.
So I mean, they still had some of that going on. Maybe the idea at that point was we've got to move on from what we did. You know, music's changing fast. You know, you had the punks come in, they kicked down the walls, you know, and you don't have to be a virtuoso anymore.
The 80s just started rolling along, you know, the decade of drum machines, synth keyboards, and brass sections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Follow very soon after this.
Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, so much changed in a short period of time in the music business, like, say, between 1970 and 1990, let's say. Put it this way, a lot more change in that time than has happened in the previous 20 years from today, 2004. So Greg also mentioned in his autobiography that he didn't like being in the band because of the way it was set up, and the fact that they really were going in this very pop direction. He believes that the A&R guy at Geffen was really the guy that pulled the band together, which is probably about right. That would not surprise me in the least. This guy's name is John Kalodner. And so he just didn't feel like it was right. Like he says, everyone was trying to fire everyone else. There were huge conspiracies going around. He just thought, it was bad juju or something. And but it would have been interesting had they actually decided maybe to just take a step slightly back, not too far back. You could have continued to make really interesting music. Now, would it have sold in 1983 or 4? I don't know. Because all those bands changed dramatically in that time. I mean, Yes had 90125 out. Very different band, really, at that point. Great band, but very different.
Songs were just getting shorter in general, much shorter. There were no epic songs left.
Right, like Genesis, they'd done Abacab, and now they had the self-titled Genesis out, which had like That's All and Mama and things like that, like shorter songs in general and stuff more tailored to the radio. King Crimson even had changed dramatically at this point, and they had, I guess by this time, 3 of a Perfect Pair might have been out. Discipline came out.
Yeah, they were going to rename themselves Discipline.
Yeah, but instead they were Crimson, with Adrian Belew and it's what, and Bill Burford, speak of the Yes members and King Crimson members from your, so it's just very interesting. Things had changed a lot, and nobody was doing what they had done. So I suppose that has something to do with it. And also, just a note, speaking of prog rock and bass players, did you notice that it looked like Greg Lake was playing a Steinberger bass in there, without the headstock? Which is exactly, we recently took a look at a Rush clip, The Weapon, and we were noting on the 84 tour for Rush, it's exactly what Geddy was playing. A headless Steinberger.
Yeah, I noticed the headstock missing.
Yeah, so those were in vogue around that time too. Just an interesting time, an interesting snapshot in music history where maybe it wasn't as safe to take those big risks that a lot of groups were able to take in the 70s. Anyway, that was a really cool clip, and I appreciate the suggestion that came from Francisco. Thank you very much, Francisco. That was cool. It was good to see this band again. Even though they were really pretty much a pop band at the time, I did enjoy a lot of the work they were doing.
Yeah, I have the CD. It's one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah. That first album's really good. After that, they lost me. But that first album's got some really great stuff on it. Folks, why don't you let us know what you thought of this clip and having Greg Lake in place of John Wetton. Your general thoughts on Asia. Have you ever seen the band before? Anything like that? Did you have the first album or any of the ones after it? Let us know. And if you have suggestions, please leave those below. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. Okay? Thanks so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one. All right. Take care, folks.
See you all later.